Hello, I'm Anne Marie Engdahl. I'm the Director of Student Policy and School Operations here for the Sun Prairie Area School District. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about the revisions that have been made for the 2023-24 secondary behavioral responses for school buildings and bus within our student and family handbooks at the secondary level. I want to tell you a little bit about the process that we used, as well as highlight any notable changes, and then foreshadow what this work will hopefully look like in future years. So this work began well before I arrived in the district. I know that Dr. Rykoff has been working with building administrators throughout the school year to make note of any pieces of our behavioral response matrix that may be confusing or unclear so that we can make sure that it is as helpful as possible. In June, he and I met with secondary administrators to hear a little bit about their suggestions around possible adjustments, as well as some discussion about any possible changes. The changes that we've made at this point were really about clarification and being as clear as possible with students, with staff, with families, with community on how our behavioral matrix is handled, as well as clarity around what next steps might be should consequences be required. So our changes for this year were really just about clarifying anything that was confusing or contradictory, so that we can continue our work together to ensure our schools are as safe and functional for all. So I'm going to talk a little bit about notable language changes. So we'll start there, and then I will shift to um, talking about some additional infractions that were added to the matrix this year in an attempt to provide additional clarity. So what we have first for our notable wording adjustments was changing physical harassment to physical altercation. It was actually misnamed in the behavior matrix, and so we wanted to make sure that the definition of harassment was accurate there. So we changed that when needed. We added a little bit of language on the unauthorized access infraction, just to note that it wasn't intended to just be a break into a building or a more extreme example of a violation like that, but also included an attempt to get into unauthorized portions of a property or a building, or attempting to imitate a staff member's credentials to do that. That language was not in there, and the administrators felt that that was important to include. We also added to a list of weapons or facsimile weapons, BB guns, and airsoft guns. Neither of those were currently on the list. Hate speech was originally classified within sexual offenses, and that was shifted to discriminatory harassment, which we felt was a more appropriate classification for that particular behavior. And then we made changes. Our level 4 consequences, the guidance around suspension and or expulsion used to read, any level 4 action will result in consideration of a 5-day out of school suspension and or consideration for a recommendation for expulsion. And we changed it to any level 4 action may result in a consideration of a 5-day out of school suspension or consideration for recommendation for expulsion. We felt like that shift from will to may more accurately reflected the important decision making and nuance that can be involved in really, really complicated situations. Those are really the major changes that we have around language. We also added several infractions as I noted for clarity. So we added a physical aggression directed at staff to level 4. We still have physical aggression within the matrix, but there was nothing specifically noting how it could be different if directed at staff. So that was added. Similarly, at level 2, we added a profanity or obscenity directed at a staff member as a separate classification. This was also about ensuring accurate record keeping. When staff were following up with students or looking at patterns of behavior. We added a section to level 4 titled Sexual Offenses Non-Consensual. Originally, that section was listed as Sexual Offenses Consensual, which still exists, but administrators felt that it was important to also have a place to note if consent was either not there or up for discussion if it was unclear. So we wanted that to be able to be noted if necessary. And then finally, in level 2, we added a student sales, just noting that students cannot sell things for profit during the school day without authorization from the school administrator. That's where we are in terms of the changes. As I noted, most of them are really for clarity's sake. My hope is throughout this year and next year that we can begin to consider a robust process to review our current behavioral matrix, as well as determine whether or not major changes or reorganization might be necessary in the future. Obviously, any major change like this would need to include a lot of feedback from students, from community, from families, particularly those who have experienced how the behavior matrix plays out in day to day, so that we can ensure that it is equitable and representative of our values. I am happy to answer any questions that folks might have about the process so far, or ideas about our process moving forward, which we hope to be a little bit more robust and collaborative if we're looking at any major changes. I am looking forward to seeing you at the board meeting. Please don't hesitate to reach out either before then or during the meeting if you have any questions. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a good day. Goodbye.